The cameras flashed as the limo doors swung open. Out stepped the ex-wife he thought he'd erased from his story. Gasps rippled through the crowd, but then came the blow that nearly stopped his heart. 3 children followed her. Children with his jawline, his eyes, and his smile. The celebration froze, champagne glasses suspended midair. This wasn't just a business launch anymore. It was a stage, and the truth had just walked into the spotlight. His empire, his reputation, his future, suddenly dangling by a thread. Were they here to honor him or expose the lie he's been hiding all along? The kettle whistled. Naomi blinked against the steam clouding her glasses, switching off the burner with one hand while holding a sock in the other, tiny, mismatched, and damp from where it had fallen behind the radiator. Somewhere behind her, 3 distinct voices competed for volume. "Mom, I can't find my other shoe. Mom, Liam's eating my pancake. Mom, I accidentally put glue in my hair." She took a deep breath. "Okay, everyone breathe, including me." Naomi Harris moved through the kitchen like a conductor, toast flipping, orange juice pouring, Band-Aids appearing like magic. Her hands were fast, but her eyes had that softness earned only through quiet pain and long patience. She looked at the triplets, Liam, Lucy, and Leo, 5 years old, beautiful, brilliant, exhausting. And hers, completely hers. No one else had ever changed a diaper. No one else had been there for midnight fevers or preschool recitals or night terrors. She had done it all, alone. She had learned how to fix the furnace, unclog a sink, and balance 3 backpacks while crying in the supermarket bathroom. And yet when Liam smiled, his smile was exactly like Derek's. She turned as the mail slid through the door. One glossy envelope stood out, heavy stock paper, gold foil print. She opened it and immediately froze. Her eyes traced the logo at the top. Derek Harris Enterprises. Invitation. Global Launch Night. Her breath caught.
Welcome back, my beautiful Imperial family. Tonight, you're not just watching a story. You're stepping into a world of emotion, betrayal, love, and redemption. If you're already drawn in, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Because tomorrow I return with another unforgettable tale that will stir your soul. And trust me, you do not want to miss it. Now, let us begin.
It had been 6 years since she'd seen his name printed that way. Not as a man, but a brand. And below that, past affiliates and founding partners welcome. She almost laughed. She'd been there in the basement when he built his first pitch deck. She'd made ramen noodles while he worked past midnight. But affiliate? That word felt like glass in her throat. The kids ran past, playing tag. She folded the envelope slowly, then unfolded it, and whispered, "Maybe it's time." Derek Harris adjusted his cufflinks with a click. The city stretched behind him like glass. Ambition, tall, proud, and untouchable. Tonight was the launch of his global tech company, DHE Vision, a $900 million valuation. The media called him Silicon Valley's golden boy and Wall Street's new lion. He didn't flinch at headlines anymore. He lived in the blur of suits, deals, and champagne. "Babe, does this dress make me look expensive or elite?" Ava twirled behind him in a shimmering silver gown. "Both," he replied, absently. She giggled. "You're not even looking." He kissed her cheek. "You always look good." She looked satisfied, flipping her hair. But Derek stared past her. Outside the window, in the distance, he could almost see Brooklyn. He hadn't been back in years.
There were things back there he couldn't let himself think about, like the night Naomi stood in the rain as he walked away, or the letter he never opened, or the last time he whispered, "I love you," and didn't mean it. But that was another life, and he had built this one with concrete, code, and clean exits. He picked up his speech. It opened with, "Everything I've built has come from clarity, sacrifice, and precision." He paused. Why did that sentence suddenly feel like a lie? The kid stared at her dress. It was red, the same red she wore the night Derek first kissed her in their tiny apartment after Chinese takeout. "Mommy," Leo whispered, "you look like a princess." She smiled. "Tonight, I just want to be someone who doesn't hide." They climbed into the limo. The driver blinked at the name on the invite. "You sure you want to go there?" "I'm not going for him," Naomi said quietly. "I'm going for the truth." The event was a masterpiece in glass and steel. A rooftop pavilion floated above New York's lights, filled with champagne glasses, live-stringed music, flashing cameras, and careful people in careless conversation. Waiters glided past with truffle canapés and sparkling wine, while the screens behind the podium flashed with 3 bold letters, DHE, Derek Harris Enterprises. Derek stood at the edge of the stage, scanning the crowd as the event manager gave him the 2-minute nod. He inhaled slowly, brushing down his blazer. His model girlfriend Ava posed for photos nearby, draping herself like jewelry against the brand logo. Everything was as it should be, polished, perfect. And yet, something inside him felt cold. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage our founder and CEO, Derek Harris. Thunderous applause, lights, cameras. Derek walked to the microphone like a man rehearsed in success. He began.
Tonight is the culmination of a dream that began in a basement with a borrowed laptop, 2 cups of coffee, and a stubborn belief that we could change the world. The audience clapped again, warm and polite, but Derek's eyes weren't on them. They were drawn to the back of the room. Movement, disruption. A limo pulled up at the edge of the rooftop's glass elevator, and when the doors opened, time cracked. Her heels clicked against the marble like thunder in a thunderless room. Naomi stepped into the light, her gown glowing against the backdrop of industry and ego. Her hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and the look in her eyes was not of vengeance, but calm clarity. She didn't have to say a word. Behind her, 3 children followed, dressed in black tie miniatures. The crowd turned to stare, and slowly the room fell silent. Derek's breath caught. His mind registered it before his body did. Leo. Lucy. Liam. Their faces, his cheekbones, his eyes, his smile. 5 years old. He dropped the speech paper without realizing it. Naomi? His voice cracked into the microphone. The audience paused, uncertain if this was part of the show. Naomi didn't flinch. She reached down and gently took Lucy's hand. Liam clung to her side. Leo stood proudly in front of them all, looking straight at the man on the stage. "Daddy," he said softly. The microphone caught it. The word echoed. "Daddy." It split the silence, and the world shifted. A rush of memories hit Derek like a collapsing building, the sound of her crying as he packed his suitcase, the unopened voicemail she left a week later, the taste of ramen on their wedding night, the red dress. She was wearing the red dress. Suddenly, the lights felt too bright, his shirt too tight, his heart too loud, and the children, they didn't just look like him. They were him. The crowd murmured. Someone whispered, "Are those his kids?" Another said, "Is this a stunt?" Ava looked confused, then horrified. Naomi stood still, not performing, not pleading, just present. And for the first time in 6 years,
Derek wasn't in control of the narrative. Naomi knelt to whisper something to Leo. He nodded. All three children held her hands tightly. She looked up at Derek. Her voice didn't need a microphone. "You left a story unfinished. I thought it was time you saw the ending." She didn't blink. Derek stepped away from the microphone. Every part of him wanted to run or rage or fall. Instead, he whispered, "They're mine?" Naomi didn't answer. Leo did. "Mom said we'd know our dad by his eyes."
He looked up. I guess she was right. A board member stood and walked toward Derek. "Is this real?" he asked under his breath. "You have children? We should have been informed." "Shut up," Derek whispered. The man blinked. But Derek's eyes weren't on him. They were fixed on her. Naomi. The woman he left behind when the dream got too loud, when his ambition swallowed his heart. The woman who had carried everything, alone. The mother of his children. Naomi turned to leave. The kids followed, obedient and quiet. No scene, no screaming, no demands. Just truth, unfiltered and unapologetic. Derek took a step forward, but Ava blocked him. "What the hell was that?" she snapped. He didn't even hear her. His heart was standing in a red dress near the elevator, and it was walking away again. What would you do if the person who broke you stood shocked in front of you while holding your children for the first time? Drop your answer in the comments. We want to know. The clink of ice in an untouched glass echoed in the massive office. Derek stood by the floor-to-ceiling window, his back to the door, watching the city burn in celebration of his company's launch. But all he could see was her. Naomi's eyes, the red dress, three children who looked like his own reflection, staring back at him. Behind him, Ava sat on the leather sofa, arms crossed, makeup smudged from crying or yelling or both. "You going to explain this to me? Or are we both just going to pretend I didn't watch your entire past walk into our future?" He didn't answer. "Are they yours, Derek?" He said nothing, just stared out at the skyline, where somewhere across the bridge his entire life had quietly existed without him. Ava stood. "You humiliated me." He turned to face her, but his voice was hollow. "This isn't about you, Ava." "Really?" she snapped. "Because I've been sleeping beside you while you've had 3 secret kids and a freaking secret wife." "Ex-wife," he said sharply. Silence. Ava blinked. "That's supposed to make it better?" Derek didn't answer. Because he didn't know.
Naomi sat in the dark. The kids were asleep, curled up like commas against each other, unaware of the emotional earthquake they'd caused. She stared at a chipped mug in her hands, tea long gone cold. Her phone buzzed. Derek. She stared at the name, then let it ring out. Seconds later, voicemail left. She didn't check it. She didn't need to hear his voice, not yet. She didn't need him trying to contain this like a press scandal, because that's what he'd do. That's what he always did. Contain. Control. Leave. Derek waited in the private boardroom, tie loosened, face pale. The door opened. Naomi walked in, coat draped over one arm, dark jeans and flats, casual but dignified. She closed the door gently. "You asked me to come. I have 15 minutes. "Are they mine?" he blurted, standing too fast. She blinked. "Is that how we're doing this? I think I deserve to know." Naomi crossed her arms. Her voice was calm, even dangerously so. You don't get to use the word deserve, Derek. Not when you walked out before I could even tell you I was pregnant. You should have told you? Her eyes sharpened. You left. You didn't ask questions. You didn't return calls. You were done. I just followed through. Silence. Why come last night? He asked, softer now. Because I was tired of hiding a story you refused to finish. Because our children deserve the truth. And because I needed to look you in the eye and see if you still had one. Derek sat down, hand trembling. I saw them. Naomi, they're me. They're also me, she whispered. And they've been enough. 5 years ago. Naomi stood in the bathroom holding the test. Derek was gone on a quick business trip that turned into a month of silence. He stopped answering, stopped coming home. She wrote him a letter, never sent it. She still had it. Dear Derek, I'm pregnant. I wanted to tell you, with music, with joy. But you've stopped listening. So I'll raise them with quiet strength. And if you ever come back, I hope you come back as a father, not a brand. N. Derek looked like he might fall apart. I can't fix this overnight. I don't want you to, she said simply. This isn't about you fixing anything. This is about you owning what you broke. He nodded slowly. Naomi stood to leave. He watched her hand reach for the doorknob. Can I see them? She turned. Are you asking as a CEO trying to control a narrative, or as a father finally ready to hear one? He didn't answer fast enough. She left. Ava packed a suitcase in silence. Derek stood by the door. So this is it? He asked. Yeah, turns out I like men who don't have hidden families. He didn't stop her, because for once, he knew he didn't deserve to.
A large monitor displayed screenshots of tabloids splashed with headlines. Derek sat at the head of the boardroom table, jaw locked, eyes burning with fatigue. The PR director spoke like someone addressing a chemical spill. We have 3 options, sir. Deny, delay, or embrace. If you deny it, you'll look like a deadbeat. Delay and the media keep circling. Embrace, well, that makes you human. A man with a past. A man willing to grow. Someone else chimed in. There's also an opportunity here. Rebranding, family angle, empathy play. Derek's stomach turned. You want he to put my children in a press strategy? Only visually. A photo, maybe a video with the kids publicly showing support. The world loves a redemption arc. Derek didn't respond. He stood slowly. I'll ask Naomi. If she says no, it's no. The room froze. It was the first time they'd ever heard him say her name aloud. Naomi opened the door to find Derek standing there with 2 coffees and a hesitant look. They want me to do a damage control campaign, he said. Of course they do. He offered her a coffee. She took it, warily. I said I wouldn't move forward without your consent. She studied him. Why do I get the feeling this is the first time you've asked someone permission for anything? Derek gave a humorless smile. Because it is. Naomi stepped aside to let him in. Liam peeked from behind the hallway. Lucy and Leo followed, watching silently. Naomi knelt. Kids, this is your father. You can say hello if you want. There was a beat of hesitation. Then Lucy walked up and touched Derek's hand. Your hands are big. He knelt to her level, trying not to cry. So are yours, just a little less. Liam approached next. You smell like elevators. Leo circled him. Do you know how to make pancakes? Derek blinked. Yes, sort of. Why? Because moms are kind of weird. Naomi raised an eyebrow.
Excuse me! Laughter erupted in the room, awkward at first, but real. And for a moment, Derek didn't feel like a CEO. He just felt like a dad. Dinner had happened. Somehow. Derek had stayed. The kids had insisted. Now Naomi was cleaning up while Derek helped Liam with a puzzle. "He's actually pretty smart," Derek said. Naomi smirked. "He gets it from me." "Clearly." She glanced at him. "You want to do the photo thing?" He hesitated. "Not for press. For them. So they have proof someday that I showed up." Naomi studied him. His tone wasn't slick. There was no pitch behind it, just truth. "Fine. One photo, no press. I'll take it." He looked up. "You trust me with that?" "No, but I trust myself enough to know where the delete button is." Naomi sat on a bench watching the kids run through a splash fountain. Derek stood beside her holding their jackets. They looked like a family. A woman passed by and smiled at them. "Beautiful kids. Twins?" "Triplets," Naomi replied. "Wow. And all yours?" Naomi paused, looked at Derek. "All ours." Derek didn't say anything, but his hand moved just slightly and brushed against hers on the bench. She didn't pull away, but she didn't hold on either. Rain tapped against the window like a quiet song. The kids were asleep, and the apartment smelled faintly of lavender bath soap and grilled cheese. Naomi sat curled on the couch, a blanket over her legs, a book unopened on her lap. Derek stood near the door, jacket still on, unsure whether he belonged. "I can go," he offered. Naomi looked up. "Then go." He hesitated. She didn't mean it as a dismissal, but as a test. He took off the jacket and sat on the opposite end of the couch. "They like you," she said softly. "I like them." "Good," she replied. "You missed a lot." Silence filled the space between them. "I missed everything," he finally said. She looked at him. "Why did you leave, Derek?"
Naomi and Derek sat on a mattress on the floor, pizza between them, laptops open. He was mid-rant about investors not getting his vision. She touched his arm. "You're burning out." "I can't slow down now. We're close." "We're drifting. We're building," he insisted. "Everything I'm doing is for us." She had stared at him. "What if us is what you're losing while chasing everything?" He never answered. Derek exhaled. "I thought I had to choose between building an empire and keeping a life." "You made that choice," she said. "I know, and I regret it." "Do you know what it felt like?" she asked, voice shaking slightly. "To go to the first ultrasound alone? To hold 3 beating hearts inside me while you were off pitching to millionaires?" He said nothing. "I wrote you," she whispered. "Not to guilt you, just to give you a chance to come home. I wanted you to choose us." "I never saw the letter." "Because you never looked." Naomi walked to her nightstand and opened a drawer. She pulled out a yellowed envelope, creased from years of handling. She handed it to Derek. "I never threw it away." He opened it slowly. The letter was dated 5 years ago, 3 weeks after he left. "Derek, I wanted to tell you with laughter, with joy, but now I write with tears. There are 3 heartbeats inside me. Yours. I don't need you to be a hero, just to be present. If you ever find your way back, I hope it's to this version of yourself, the one who made ramen with me and believed love could be enough." His hand shook, his eyes glazed. "Naomi," he whispered. She wasn't crying, she was watching him, watching whether this time he'd finally understand. The triplets were eating cereal. Naomi sipped coffee, quiet. Derek sat across from her,
holding the letter again as if afraid to put it down. Can I tell them? What? The truth. That I was afraid, that I left not because I stopped loving you, but because I didn't know how to carry the weight of being who you needed me to be. Naomi studied him. If you're going to tell them all of it. Tell them you were wrong, and that they were worth staying for. He nodded.
Derek sat on the floor beside their bunk beds. Liam rubbed his eyes sleepily. Lucy twirled a strand of her hair. Leo stared up at the ceiling. "Hey," Derek began. "I want to tell you something about me. Something I should have said before." They looked at him. "When you were born, I wasn't there. Not because I didn't want you, but because I didn't know how to be enough. I was scared." Liam frowned. "But you're not scared now?" Derek shook his head. "I'm still scared, but I'm staying." Lucy leaned over and whispered, "Promise?" Derek kissed her forehead. "Promise." Naomi stood in the doorway, watching as Derek quietly closed the kid's bedroom door. He turned to fight her, staring. "You told them. They deserved it." A long silence stretched between them. Naomi finally said, "That letter was my goodbye." "Then why'd you keep it?" he asked. She shrugged, voice small. "I guess part of me was always waiting to see if you'd ever earn it back." He nodded. "I don't expect forgiveness." "Good," she said, "because forgiveness isn't earned in a week. It's built. Every day." There was laughter. Not the cautious kind, but the kind that filled the space between heartbeats. Derek stood in the kitchen, wearing an apron that read, "I burned toast," flipping uneven pancakes with Leo supervising. "You're doing it wrong," Leo stated flatly. "I'm doing my best." "Your best is burning." Naomi peeked around the corner and smirked. "Welcome to my daily reality," she said, sipping coffee. He turned to her with mock offense. "I'm under attack!" "You'll survive." He handed her a misshapen pancake. "Diplomatic peace offering?" She took a bite. "Still better than mine." They went to the park, something they hadn't done together since before the split. The triplets ran ahead, darting between the jungle gym and slides. Naomi and Derek followed, a steady 2 steps behind. "They're so alive," Derek said. "They have to be. I couldn't afford to let them carry silence. They were born into absence, so I made sure they were raised with noise." "You did that?" She smiled. "No, we did that. Whether you show it up or not, you're in them. I see it every day." He looked at her, humbled. "I wish I'd known." "You would have," she said, "if you had stayed." Liam had sticky fingers. Lucy had smeared chocolate on her chin. Leo tried to barter for a second cone with half a rock and a leaf. Naomi laughed. Derek stared at her. Really looked. "You still laugh the same," he said. "You still look like you're about to say something meaningful, but haven't figured out what it is." He smiled. "I miss this." Naomi's eyes softened, but she didn't reply. A breeze passed between them, tugging her hair into her face. Derek reached out and tucked it behind her ear. She didn't stop him. They piled on the couch, Naomi, Derek, and 3 small bodies, curled up with popcorn and Disney songs. Naomi and Derek sat close, but not touching, until Lucy, half asleep, shifted and laid her head on Derek's lap, her hand reaching for Naomi's. Without a word, Naomi laced her fingers through Derek's. The movie played. The kids drifted off. And for the first time in years, the silence between them felt safe. Later, Naomi stepped outside to breathe in the night. Derek followed, holding 2 mugs. "Minty," he said. "Figured I'd finally start contributing." She accepted it. They stood side by side,
watching the city exhale in lights and sirens. "You built something beautiful here," he said, not just meaning the apartment. "It's not perfect," she replied. "Neither am I." She turned to face him.
I know, but I want to try. Not just to be here, but to belong here. With them. And maybe, if there's still room, with you. Her breath hitched. Don't say that unless you mean it. I wouldn't say it if I didn't feel it. A pause. The rain started lightly, soft, like a whisper. Naomi looked up at the sky. You remember the last time we stood in the rain? Yeah. I promised I'd never leave. She nodded slowly. You did. I broke that. You did. Can I try again? Naomi didn't speak. She stepped forward, laid her head gently against his shoulder. Not an answer, but not a no. 3 small chests rose and fell in sleep. Naomi stood in the doorway, watching them. Derek walked up behind her and whispered, They're everything. She nodded. They always were. He looked at her. So were you.
The door slammed harder than intended. Derek barely noticed. He was pacing, jaw clenched, phone in hand. On the screen, gossip alert. CEO reunites with ex-wife. Secret family drama sparks internal crisis at DHE. Underneath the headline, a photo. Naomi and the triplets at the park, smiling, with Derek in the background. And the worst part? It looked staged. Worse, planned. He stared at the bottom of the article. Photo credit, Ava Sinclair. The knock was sharp, urgent. Naomi opened the door, her smile fading instantly. What happened? Derek stepped in, holding his phone up like a weapon. You told me you didn't want press. She blinked. I didn't. Then why are we the top trending topic in the industry right now? Naomi took the phone, brows furrowing as she scrolled. What the hell is this? That's what I want to know. You think I sold us out? Her voice was rising now. I don't know, he snapped. You kept a secret for 5 years. Forgive me if I question what else you're capable of hiding. That landed like a slap. She stepped back, hurt flickering across her face. Don't you dare stand in my home and call me a liar. You left, remember? I protected our children from all of this. I protected you even when I didn't owe you anything. Then why is Ava's name on this photo? Naomi's eyes narrowed. Because Ava was at that park. She followed us. I saw her across the street, watching. I thought it was a coincidence. And you didn't think to tell me? You were with the kids. You were laughing. You were finally being the father they needed. I didn't want to ruin it with jealousy and suspicion. So you let her take that photo? Let her control this narrative? Naomi's voice cracked. I didn't know. I didn't know she'd use it against us. Against me. Well, she did, he said bitterly. And you believed her. Derek fell silent. That was all Naomi needed. She grabbed a duffel bag and began stuffing clothes inside. What are you doing? He asked. We're leaving. Naomi, you told me you wanted to belong here, but the moment the past whispers in your ear, you believe her, the woman you replaced me with. That's not fair. No, she cut in. What's not fair is me allowing myself to hope again and watching you unravel at the first shadow. Leo walked in, rubbing his eyes. Mommy? She draned, softening immediately. Go back to bed, sweetheart. We're just talking. Leo looked at Derek. Are you leaving again? Silence. Naomi looked away. Yes, she said. He is. He sat alone in the dark. The TV played a silent news loop, his name scrolling under a chyron reading Corporate Chaos.
But that wasn't what was echoing in his head. It was Leo's voice. "Are you leaving again?" He rubbed his hands over his face, body heavy with shame. Everything he'd started to build, gone again. Not because Naomi ran, but because he doubted her, because he still hadn't learned how to stay. The kids were asleep in the back seat. Naomi drove in silence, tears she wouldn't shed during the fight now falling freely. She looked in the rearview mirror. 3 perfect reasons to protect her peace, and 1 broken heart that still hadn't learned to let him go. She was holding 3 tiny infants, alone. She whispered softly, "One day you'll know who your father is, and if he never comes back, just know it wasn't because you weren't worthy. You were always worthy." The toys were still there. So were Derek's coffee mugs, his jacket on the chair. His cologne lingered in the hallway. She sat down on the couch and cried quietly, because she hated that even now she missed him. He sat at his desk, staring at a sticky note Naomi once left on his computer back when they were married. It read, "You can chase the world. I'll hold your hand through it." He folded it in half, because now there was no hand to hold. The apartment was too quiet. The kind of quiet that crept under your skin. Naomi stood at the sink, washing a single mug. The triplets were asleep, the TV was off, the lights dim. She wasn't crying. She was simply waiting for the ache to settle. A knock broke the silence.
She didn't move, didn't breathe. Then a small envelope slid under the door. Naomi walked over slowly, picked it up. There was no name on the outside. She opened it carefully. Inside, a handwritten letter. "Naomi, I was wrong, not just in the way I doubted you last week, but in the way I left all those years ago. You told me once I could chase the world and you'd hold my hand, but I let go first. Now you've built something without me, something strong, and I don't want to knock on your door expecting you to open it just because I finally showed up. So I'm not knocking tonight. I'm just writing this to say I'm ready to stay, not for redemption, not to look good, but because the place I belong has always been where you are. If there's still room for me at the table, in their lives, in your heart, I'll be at the bench in Riverside Park, the one we used to sit on after takeout, the one where you said you'd love me even when I couldn't afford dessert. I'll wait until midnight. D." She sat on her bed, the letter in her lap. The clock ticked too loudly. She looked out the window. The rain had stopped. Stillness had settled. Then a voice from the hallway. "Mommy?" Leo again. She turned. "You should be asleep. Are you sad?" She hesitated. "A little." Leo walked over and climbed onto the bed. He laid his head on her shoulder. "I think Daddy's sad too." She held him tighter. "I know. Are we still a family?" Her eyes stung. She kissed his hair. "We never stopped being one." Derek sat alone, palms sweating, heart racing. The city moved in the background, cars, laughter, a dog barking in the distance. But this bench, this space was still. He held a second envelope in his hand, a drawing Lucy had given him.
Stick figures, 3 small ones, 1 tall, 1 taller, holding hands. She had written underneath, "My family when Daddy stays." He exhaled slowly. The wind rustled the trees. He looked at the time. 11:23. She wasn't coming, and maybe that's what he deserved. She stood in the hallway, coat in hand. Then she sat down, then stood again, then opened the door, then closed it. She looked at the clock. 11:41. Her fingers tightened on the doorknob, and then she opened it for good. Derek stood to leave. He took one last look at the bench and the skyline. He began to walk. Footsteps behind him, quick, familiar. He turned. Naomi, breathless, still in her flats, no umbrella, hair slightly damp from drizzle. They stood in silence. No apologies, no explanations. Just breath between two people who had survived the worst parts of each other. Naomi looked down at the drawing in his hand. "Lucy's?" He nodded. "She still wants her stick figures to come true." "So do I," he said. "Why here?" she asked. "Because this is where you taught me how to be full when we had nothing. And now? Now I want to be full of you, of them. Not money, not power, just us." Her eyes watered. "You're late." "No," he said. "You are."
How so? He stepped closer. Because I've been waiting since the day I left for you to come find me and pull me back. But I realize now that wasn't your job. It was mine. She smiled softly. And you're doing it. Liam ran to the door when it opened. Did you find him? Naomi stepped in, Derek behind her. No, she said, smiling. He found us. Leo jumped into his arms. Lucy hugged his leg. Are you staying? Leo asked. Derek looked at Naomi. If your mom lets me? Naomi nodded. Welcome home. Do you believe love can ever come back from betrayal, or is it once broken, always broken? Sunlight filtered through the curtains in wide, warm ribbons. In the kitchen, Naomi leaned against the counter with a quiet smile as Derek flipped pancakes. Actual pancakes this time, while Leo narrated the process like a sports announcer. He's going for the flip, and boom! Burnt again! I give up, Derek groaned. Naomi handed him a spatula. You're still hired. Lucy was braiding Liam's hair in the living room, her tongue poking out in concentration. The air smelled like syrup and safety. It was the kind of morning that felt like home. Naomi folded laundry while Derek helped Liam hang a drawing on the wall. This one's our whole family, Liam explained proudly. Even with the dog we won't have yet. Naomi laughed. Ambitious? Derek knelt next to Liam. We'll make room. Maybe not for the dog yet, but definitely for everything else. Liam grinned. Naomi caught Derek's eye. No big speech, just a shared look that said, we're here now. They were back at the same bench, all 5 of them. Leo chased pigeons, Lucy collected pebbles. Liam tried to build a city with sticks. Derek sat beside Naomi, watching it all unfold. Remember when this was just us and a bag of takeout? He said. I remember you forgot to bring forks. We use napkins and dignity. She laughed. You know, she said, you've changed. I had to. No, she corrected, you chose to. He looked at her, then at the kids. I thought legacy was what I left behind.
Turns out, it's who I come back for. She leaned her head on his shoulder. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that felt like memories, stretching toward healing. Derek stood at a podium, facing his board of directors. There was a time I believed success meant building something the world couldn't ignore. But now I believe true success is building something that can't be replaced. A photo flicked onto the screen behind him. Naomi, the triplets, all laughing in the park. This is my family, and for the record, I didn't find them. They found me again, and this time, I stayed.
The room fell silent. Then applause. Not for the CEO, for the man. The table was set. Candles flickered. Pasta simmered. Naomi stood in the mirror, adjusting her necklace. Derek came behind her, hands on her waist. "You nervous?" she teased. "Always. Every time you look at me like I might matter again." She turned to face him. "You already do." They kissed, soft, sure, slow. Not like a restart, like a return. The kids were sprawled on the rug, watching a movie. Derek pulled out a small box from his jacket. Naomi raised a brow. "If that's a ring, don't you dare do this in front of the kids." "It's not." He opened it. Inside, a simple gold chain with 3 tiny charms, L, L, and L. Liam, Leo, Lucy. He fastened it around her neck. "This is just me saying, I see everything you've carried, and I'm ready to carry it with you." Her hand found his. "You already are." Friends, laughter, kids playing tag in the yard. Naomi stood at the grill, apron on. Derek chased Liam with a water balloon. Lucy giggled as Leo plotted an ambush. "Daddy, you slow." "I'm calculating my strategy." Naomi watched, hand on her heart, eyes full. A neighbor walked over. "So, is this the guy?" Naomi nodded. "Yeah, he is the guy." "Took him long enough, huh?" She smiled. Sometimes love has to break before it can rebuild stronger. The camera lingers on the bench. A pair of initials carved into the wood. N plus D equals always. Thank you so much for watching. If this story moved you, brought back a memory, or made you feel anything real, please take a moment and share it in the comments. I genuinely love hearing from you. Your stories, your thoughts, they matter here. And honestly, your support means more than I can say. Every like, every share, every kind word, it's what keeps Imperial Stories alive. The next story is already on the way, and I promise it'll be just as emotional, just as unforgettable. So stay tuned, make sure you're subscribed, and let's keep walking this journey together. Until next time, this is Imperial Stories, where every ending is just a new beginning.